I was about to serve beer to my husband and his friends when I heard him say, "She's just my sugar mama who pays for everything. I don't even love her." What I did next destroyed his entire life in 24 hours. I guess this is where it begins. My name is Emily and I'm 34 years old. 3 months ago I thought I had the perfect marriage. I'm a senior software engineer pulling in 6 figures, and my husband Lucas worked part-time at a grocery store making minimum wage. I never minded the income difference. Love doesn't have a price tag, right? That Friday night started like any other poker night. Lucas had invited his usual crew over: Jerome, Dwayne, and Carlos. These guys had been his friends since high school, and I'd grown fond of them over our 5 years of marriage. I was in the kitchen, opening cold beers and arranging snacks on a tray, humming to myself as I listened to their laughter drift in from the dining room. "Emily's got the good stuff tonight, fellas," I heard Lucas announce as I balanced the tray carefully. "She picked up those expensive imports you like, Jerome." I smiled to myself, pleased that I could make his friends happy. The guys always complimented my cooking and thanked me for hosting. They seemed like good people, and Lucas was always so animated and joyful around them. As I approached the dining room, I slowed my steps to avoid interrupting what sounded like an intense conversation. The lighting was dim and they couldn't see me standing in the doorway. That's when I heard words that would shatter my world completely. "Man, you got it made," Jerome was saying with obvious envy in his voice. "What happened next would change everything forever." "She's just my sugar mama who pays for everything," Lucas laughed, his voice carrying a cruel edge I'd never heard before. "I don't even love her, but she makes 6 figures and I make minimum wage, so I'm living the good life." The beer bottles clinked against each other as my hands started shaking uncontrollably. My heart pounded so hard I was certain they'd hear it. This couldn't be real. This had to be some sick joke between friends. "Seriously though," Lucas continued, completely oblivious to my presence, "she's so desperate to keep me happy that she'll pay for anything. New Xbox, designer clothes, those expensive dinners. Whatever I want. All I have to do is pretend I care about her boring job stories and give her some attention when she gets clingy." Dwayne chuckled uncomfortably. "Man, that's cold. What if she finds out?" "She won't," Lucas said confidently. "She's too in love to see what's right in front of her face. Besides, where else is she gonna find someone who'll put up with her? She should be grateful I'm even here." The tray slipped from my numb fingers, but somehow I caught it before it crashed. Every word felt like a physical blow. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of supporting his dreams, encouraging him when he felt insecure about our income difference, telling him he was enough just as he was. All lies. All of it had been lies. I stood there frozen, listening to the man I'd loved destroy everything I thought we'd built together. Carlos shifted in his chair, clearly uncomfortable. "I don't know, bro. Emily seems like good people. She's always been real nice to us." "Nice?" Lucas scoffed. "She's nice because she has to be. That's how she keeps me around. You think I'd be with someone like her if she wasn't paying my bills? Please. I could do so much better if I had my own money." My chest tightened as memories flooded back. Last month when Lucas said he needed space to find himself, I'd supported him completely. When he wanted to quit his job to pursue music, I'd encouraged him to follow his dreams while I covered our expenses. When he'd seemed distant lately, I blamed myself for working too many hours. "She bought you that car last year, right?" Jerome asked. "The BMW?" "Yeah, told her I needed reliable transportation for job interviews." Lucas laughed harshly. "Job interviews, my ass. I've been driving it to meet other women. She's so trusting, she never questions where I go or who I'm with." The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. Other women. While I was working 60-hour weeks to support our lifestyle, he was out cheating. While I was planning our future together, he was planning his escape route. "That's messed up, Lucas," Dwayne said quietly. "Is it though?" Lucas challenged. "She gets what she wants, a husband to show off at her fancy work events. I get what I want, a comfortable life without the stress. It's a business arrangement that works." A business arrangement. Our marriage was nothing more than a business arrangement to him. "What about when she wants kids?" Carlos asked. "She mentioned that at Christmas dinner." Lucas groaned dramatically. "Oh God, don't remind me. She keeps bringing up starting a family, looking at bigger houses, talking about our future like it's set in stone. It's pathetic how she plans our whole life without realizing I'm just biding my time." My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a sob. We'd been trying to get pregnant for 8 months. I'd been tracking my cycle, taking vitamins, scheduling romantic getaways around my ovulation. He'd been going through the motions while secretly hoping it would never happen. Biding your time for what? Jerome pressed. Until I find someone better, obviously. Someone younger, prettier, who doesn't snore or leave her hair all over the bathroom. Someone who makes her own money so I don't have to pretend to be grateful all the time. The room fell silent. Even his friends seemed shocked by his cruelty. She snores because she's exhausted from working to support your ungrateful ass, Dwayne said, his voice tight with anger. Whatever, man. You don't have to live with her boring stories about coding and her desperate attempts to be interesting. At least when I leave, I'll have saved up enough money to start fresh somewhere else. Saved up money? Our joint savings account. He was planning to take the money I'd worked so hard to earn and disappear. This wasn't just emotional betrayal. This was financial planning for theft. That's when something inside me snapped completely. I backed away from the doorway silently, my lawyer brain kicking into survival mode. 5 years of marriage in our state meant he was entitled to half of everything. But only if I let this drag out. Only if I played fair while he played dirty. Setting the beer tray on the kitchen counter with hands that had stopped shaking, I felt a cold clarity settle over me. The hurt was still there, burning like acid in my chest, but underneath it was something stronger. Righteous fury. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made. Every time I'd worked late to afford his luxuries while he contributed nothing. Every time I'd defended him to my family when they questioned why he wasn't more ambitious. Every time I'd made excuses for him when my friends asked why he didn't have a real job. My phone was in my hand before I'd consciously decided to pick it up. 3 contacts. My divorce lawyer Luna Richardson, my bank's 24-hour customer service line, and my accountant Rebecca. From the dining room, I could hear Lucas dealing cards again, probably pleased with how much his friends now understood his brilliant arrangement. None of them would ever look at him the same way again, but he was too stupid to realize it. "Emily," he called out. "Where are those beers, baby?" Baby. The endearment made my skin crawl now that I knew the truth. "Coming." I called back sweetly, amazed at how normal my voice sounded. But I wasn't coming. I was leaving. Forever. Upstairs in our bedroom. My bedroom now. I closed the door and dialed Luna Richardson's emergency line. As one of the city's top divorce attorneys, she'd handled my colleague's messy separation last year. She was ruthless, efficient, and available 24/7 for urgent situations. Luna Richardson Law Office, emergency line. "Luna, it's Emily Gibson. I need to file for divorce immediately. Tonight if possible." "Emily? It's almost midnight. What's happened?" My voice stayed steady as I explained everything I'd overheard. Luna listened without interruption and I could hear her typing notes. "This is actually perfect," Luna said finally. "He's shown clear intent to defraud you financially, and you have multiple witnesses to his admissions. In this state, if we can prove he was planning to leave with marital assets, the court will look very unfavorably on any claims he makes. How fast can we move? I can have papers drafted and filed first thing Monday morning. But Emily, you need to protect your assets immediately. Do you have individual accounts?" "Yes, but most of our money is in joint accounts he can access." "Not for long. You have every legal right to move that money to protect yourself from fraud. Document everything. His admissions about other women, his plan to steal money, his confession about not loving you. This is going to be the easiest divorce case I've ever handled." Downstairs, Lucas laughed loudly at something Jerome said. The sound that used to warm my heart now made my stomach turn. "Luna, I want him served publicly. In front of those same friends who heard him bragging." "Consider it done." The bank's customer service representative was incredibly helpful once I explained the situation. "Mrs. Gibson, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Let me walk you through protecting your assets." Within 20 minutes, I'd transferred every penny from our joint accounts to my individual account, $47,000 in savings and $3,200 in checking. The house was solely in my name because my credit score had qualified us for the mortgage while his couldn't. His car was technically mine since I'd paid for it outright. "I need to remove him as an authorized user from all my credit cards," I continued. "Done. The cards will be deactivated immediately and new ones sent to you. Is there anything else?" Cancel the insurance policies where I'm the primary holder. Car insurance, health insurance, even his phone plan. All cancelled with 24-hour notice as legally required. I wasn't being vindictive, I was being practical. Why should I pay for services for someone who was planning to rob me blind? My laptop was open and I was already researching real estate agents. The house would sell quickly in this market, especially with all the upgrades I'd paid for. Lucas had never contributed a penny toward the mortgage or improvements. From downstairs came the sound of chairs scraping. They were taking a break. I heard Lucas's footsteps heading toward the kitchen. Emily, did you fall asleep up there? We're dying of thirst down here. I smiled grimly. Soon he'd be dying of a lot more than thirst. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonably bright sunshine. Lucas was still asleep, snoring loudly after his late night of character assassination. His friends had left around 2 a.m., and he'd stumbled upstairs without even checking on me. I was already dressed in my best power suit, hair perfectly styled, makeup immaculate. If today was going to be the day I reclaimed my life, I was going to look incredible doing it. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 a.m. Luna had promised punctuality and she'd delivered. Through the window, I saw her process server standing on our porch with official papers and a witness. Lucas. I called upstairs sweetly. Someone's at the door for you. What? Who the hell comes by this early on Saturday? I think it's one of your friends. Maybe Jerome. I heard him grumbling as he pulled on clothes. His hair was sticking up, his eyes were bloodshot, and he looked exactly like the lazy deadbeat he was. Perfect. As he stumbled down the stairs, I positioned myself where I could see everything. This moment needed to be witnessed and remembered. Lucas opened the door in his wrinkled clothes and immediately froze. Lucas Gibson? Yeah. You've been served. These are divorce papers filed by your wife, Emily Gibson. You have 30 days to respond through legal counsel. The papers hit his hands and his face went completely white. What the hell? Emily. But I was already walking past him toward my car, my heels clicking confidently on the hardwood floors he'd never helped pay for. Wait, what's going on? Lucas chased after me, still holding the divorce papers like they might explode. That's when I saw them, Jerome, Dwayne, and Carlos walking up our driveway. Perfect timing. They'd probably come to check on Lucas after how uncomfortable they'd seemed last night. Oh good, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. You're all here. Lucas, why don't you tell your friends what those papers are? His face went from white to red to gray. The three men looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. Emily, baby, let's talk about this inside. Baby. I laughed, a sound sharp enough to cut glass. Don't you mean sugar mama? Isn't that what you called me last night while I was bringing you beer like a servant? Jerome's eyes widened. Dwayne took a step back. Carlos looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. You heard. Lucas whispered. Every single word. About how you don't love me, about the other women, about your plan to steal our savings and run off with someone prettier and younger. About how our marriage is just a business arrangement where I pay your bills while you shop for my replacement. The process server was still standing there, clearly fascinated by the drama unfolding. Luna had chosen well. This guy was getting his money's worth of entertainment. Emily, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been lying to me for 5 years. How you've been cheating on me with my own money. How you see me as nothing more than a walking atom. His friends looked sick. These were men who'd eaten at my table, accepted my hospitality, watched me treat their friend with love and respect. Now they knew exactly who he really was. You want to know what I did while you were all laughing about what a pathetic fool I am? I asked, my voice carrying across the yard. Our neighbors were starting to peek out their windows and I didn't care. Let everyone see who Lucas Gibson really was. I called my lawyer and filed for divorce. I moved all the money from our joint accounts. The money I earned working 60 hours a week while you played video games. I canceled your credit cards, your car insurance, and your phone plan. And I've already contacted a realtor about selling this house. Lucas's face went from shock to panic to rage in seconds. You can't do that. Half of everything is legally mine. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone and hitting record, when you confess to planning fraud and theft to multiple witnesses, you lose a lot of legal standing. Luna says this will be the easiest divorce case she's ever handled. Jerome stepped forward, his expression serious. Lucas, man, what she's saying, is that really how you feel about her? Look, I was just talking, you know how guys talk. No, Dwayne interrupted, his voice disgusted. We don't all talk like that about our wives. That was sick, man. Carlos shook his head. Emily, I'm sorry we were there when he said those things. We should have shut him down immediately. It's not your fault, I said, my anger cooling into something more powerful, resolve. You looked uncomfortable. At least you have consciences. Lucas was starting to realize his situation. No money, no car insurance, no friends willing to defend him, and divorce papers that painted him as a fraud and a cheat. Where am I supposed to go? He asked pathetically. The same place you were planning to go when you stole my money and left me for someone younger and prettier, I replied calmly. Figure it out yourself. That's when Lucas completely lost it. In front of his friends, the process server, and half the neighborhood, he started screaming about how I couldn't kick him out of his house, couldn't take his money, couldn't destroy his life like this. Your house. I laughed. Your name isn't on the mortgage. Your money. You make minimum wage part-time. Your life. You mean the life where you contribute nothing while living off my success. Jerome grabbed Lucas's arm. Bro, you need to calm down. You're making this worse. Making it worse? Lucas spun around wildly. She's destroying everything. Do you know what I'm gonna have to do now? I'll have to get a real job, find a cheap apartment, actually work for money instead of just... He stopped, realizing what he was admitting. Instead of just using me, I finished. Yes, Lucas. Welcome to the real world where adults pay their own bills. Dwayne shook his head in disgust. Man, she worked her ass off to support you and you repay her by planning to rob her? That's low even for you. Don't act all high and mighty. Lucas snapped. You all laughed when I talked about her. We laughed uncomfortably because we didn't know how to process that level of disrespect, Carlos said firmly. None of us thought it was funny. The process server finally spoke up. Ma'am, I've served thousands of these papers and I've never seen someone handle it with this much class. Sir, you might want to get that lawyer sooner rather than later. As Lucas's friends walked away, clearly done with him forever, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The man I'd loved was gone, replaced by this pathetic stranger having a breakdown in our driveway. My phone rang. Una Richardson. How did it go? Better than expected. He had a complete meltdown in front of witnesses, admitted to planning fraud, and his friends all turned on him. Oh, and I recorded part of it. Perfect. I'll have a restraining order filed within the hour. He won't be able to come back to the house or contact you directly. And Emily? Yeah. I'm proud of you. Most people would have confronted him in the moment and lost the advantage. You played this exactly right. After hanging up, I looked at Lucas one last time. He was sitting on the curb, head in his hands, probably realizing that his comfortable life of luxury was about to become a very uncomfortable life of actual responsibility. The locksmith comes at noon to change all the locks, I told him. You have until then to get your personal belongings. Everything else stays because I paid for it. Emily, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. This was 5 years of calculated deception and emotional abuse. There's no working this out. I walked toward my car, keys jingling with satisfaction. Where am I supposed to live? He called desperately. Try asking one of those other women you've been cheating with, I called back without turning around. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to support a broke, jobless loser who badmouths his benefactors. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new downtown condo, smaller than the old house but entirely mine. The divorce was finalized last month. Lucas got exactly what he deserved, which was nothing. Luna's recordings of his admissions made sure of that. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he's living in his mother's basement, working full-time at 2 minimum wage jobs to afford child support for a kid he had with one of those other women. Apparently she disappeared when she realized he was broke. Jerome, Dwayne, and Carlos reached out after everything settled. They apologized profusely and shared that they'd completely cut contact with Lucas. We couldn't respect a man who treated his wife like that, Jerome told me. You deserved so much better. My career has taken off without the stress of supporting a deadweight partner. I got promoted to senior team lead, bought myself the luxury car I'd always wanted, and started traveling to places Lucas had never been interested in seeing. The best part? I'm dating someone new. Eddie is a fellow engineer who makes his own 6 figures, pays for his own dinners, and lights up when I talk about my work. When I told him the whole story, he was horrified by Lucas's behavior and impressed by my strategic response. "You handled that like a boss," he'd said. "Remind me never to cross you." But Eddie would never need that reminder because he's a grown man who values partnership, not parasitism. Sometimes I think about that night, standing in the doorway listening to my husband destroy our marriage with his own words. It was devastating in the moment, but ultimately it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I learned I'm stronger than I knew, smarter than I gave myself credit for, and worth far more than I was settling for. Lucas taught me exactly what I don't want in a partner, and now I know exactly what I do want. The sugar mama is dead. Long live the queen. Oh, that's my story. I still wonder if I crossed the line, or if you were in my shoes, would you have done the same?